The northern nations at the time saw that it was necessary to break away from an organization that they felt was not representing their interests. And so what we're doing today is defining the direction we are going to do or take. The northern nations within our region are now in a position, as I said, to take the next step. And since I started my comments in recognizing the steering committee for their work, they are the ones that are going to set the pace, but we need the people of the 7 nations to do what they can to be part of the build. What we're doing today is your contributions and your input to what our next steps are very vital in the organization that we are about to build. Of course, we are going to have our critics, and of course, we're going to have our challenges, but those are just roadblocks that we're going to experience as we move forward. But I don't think that we should have too much to worry about because of the unity that and the work that all of us are going to be a part of this initiative. Thank you to everyone for your continued support and participation. And thank you to the technicians in our legal team as well. I just wanted to acknowledge the staff from the 3 organizations for the work that they've done. And I want to thank all of you for being here today because it's important that you continue to support what we're doing here. Egussi. Thank you, Masicho.
What I value most during that time is I was fortunate enough to work with the elders in those 4 communities. They were known as the local child care committees. And these elders were what I would consider healthy elders. Most of them did not experience the residential school. Most of them had clear minds, open hearts, very kind people. And I was fortunate enough to work with them. So in saying that, I did take part in Jenny's, Dr. Jenny Watesgood's presentation. In terms of what she was presenting, it really resonated a lot of the things that I heard in discussions that took place with the local child care committee. And it's one thing to take in a presentation from an academic scholar, but it's another thing when she speaks about ceremony, when she speaks about tradition. It really resonated with me in terms of what I usually hear our elders talk about. So, in my mind, the answer lies in each of our communities in terms of solutions. And I'm glad to see that this organization, KTC, OASIS, and your communities are embarking on a path to where that's going to become a reality. It's unfortunate that the elders that we used to work with are no longer here to see this. But you know what? They are here in spirit with us as we take this journey. So with that, thank you very much. Egusai.
I can just figure that out. Oh, there we go. So here's the thing. I went to the archives and I tried to go as far back as I could to research, when settler society first arrived here, because the first thing that they did was they recorded everything that they knew about us, because they wanted to identify what were our strengths, what were our weaknesses. And of course, over time, they found out our weakness would be our children if they took our children away. And that's why they attacked our children and started creating residential schools. But here's this quote I found. And it's about the Dene people. And I wrote it the way it's written in the archives. So it says, the year I left Hudson's Bay Company, a Malacany accident happened at a Churchill factory. In the month of May 1776, a body of a Wichipog Indian woman crossing from the North Point to the fort with wild geese that their men had killed were overtaken by a storm of wind at northwest with a high drift of snow freezing as it fell. 20 of whom got alive to the factory with their extremities almost frozen solid. 7 were frozen to death, and the next day the men were sent to look for them, found the dead mothers with the infants yet alive suckling their breasts, which plainly discovers to us the maternal affection the Indians have for their children, for these poor mothers had attended to the safety of their offspring while strength remained. And so it goes to show that the mothers back in the day, they never left their children. There was no such thing as abandonment. There was even our women who would go and work with York factory or any of the factories, and they would carry their babies in Tiganagan. And while they were working, they would carry them in their backs, and there was another story I found where a woman by the name of Letitia Hargrave said the baby started crying, and the woman put the broom aside and started rocking, and just started rocking and singing. And then as soon as the baby fell back asleep, she says she went back to cleaning up. That's how our mothers were a long time ago, so there was no such thing as abandonment. So paving a way for our children, what we need to do, and we heard this on day one, is that we have to work together. We have to create a common vision for self-government. The way the government has done with us today is divide and conquer, so we're individually working to come up with a plan. What we really should be happening is that we should be coming together and coming up with that common vision and just coming up with one plan. Because they're really trying to control how we move forward. They want us to become like municipalities, and that's their overall goal.
That when I did my PhD, in the past 7 years it took me to do that PhD, one thing I realized is that everything I've been taught to that point in time is all colonial. It's from the perspective of the Europeans. So what I had to do is I had to put everything aside that's been taught to me by, I'll just say it, the white people, and their system. And I started questioning everything, because the way the colonial people think, the settler people think, the way the Europeans think, that's not how we think. We're very different. And I remember as a boy always asking that question, wondering that question. We as a people, the Cree, the Innu, did we have drums? Did we have pipes? Did we have ceremonies? Did we have dance? I didn't know the answer to these questions. For all my life, most of my adult life, I didn't know that. I didn't know these answers. And when I went through my master's degree, one of the most significant things, and I mentioned this yesterday, is that I did a paper on Aboriginal management systems and Western government systems of managing resources. And in red ink, that professor wrote on my paper, Aboriginal people do not manage the resources as such. That's what he wrote. I knew he was wrong. And I spent the next 4 years of research, and I was with MKO again at that time, in the early 1990s. And then finally, after 4 years, I started to see the pattern, of how we manage the resources. That's how we managed, that's how we took care of the land. So I came up with a comparison of how government does their management and how we do our stewardship. And I'm going to mention that here.
Every part of that animal has had a use for us and a very spiritual connection with those animals. And even today, we practice the drums. Our drums are made out of caribou skin, young cow hides, and birch rim on the drums. But the drums are very powerful in that the caribou hear that. From a long ways off, they can hear the drums. So we drum every Friday. That's what we've been doing for the last 5 years. And miraculously, we've had caribou for the last 5 years by having our hand games, traditional games every Friday. That's something I pushed on the community. And such a beautiful kind of a bonding game, a traditional hand game with the chants and the drums, and it's just camaraderie and friendships. But our people lived along the tree line, historically from Hudson Bay to the Arctic Ocean. And I always say before contact with the Europeans, there was 10,000 campfires between Hudson Bay and the Arctic Ocean, different clans. There was no such thing as community sites in those days. But treaty changed that. But historically, prior to treaty, polygamy was normal in our lives. Throughout history, man could have 4 or 5 wives. And treaties changed that. We have to abide by the Canadian laws, and have to obey the RCMP rules, and you have to give up your nomadic lifestyle, is what our people were told. And that to make annual trek all the way up to Yathcoot Lake to follow the caribou on your annual rounds is a major undertaking, major feat for any race of people. People walked forever. There was no sedentary life at all, life on the move, constantly with the caribou herds. As far north as Yathcoot Lake, which is south of Baker Lake. And when a treaty commissioner said, you don't have to do that anymore. You're going to build a house right here. We're going to give you a garden. You're going to plant your own garden. We're going to give you livestock. We're going to give you hoes and oxen to work with.
The role of the parents' responsibilities is to provide guidance, provide security, to be providers, support the family, organize activities and chores around in the house, show love and affection, teach, be a positive role model, provide discipline, to be listeners, and resolve disputes within the family, communicate, be patient, and be nurturing. Have fun, to provide life skills to their children, teach right from wrong, be community, okay, there's 2 dots there. Community mediators. So they go around, they are community reps for the family. Or they go and introduce their children to their other community members. Or take them to the schools and nursing station and all the other services, programs in the community to make them be involved in the community. Okay.
So with traditionally, I guess, there was no separations of family. You know, fasting was also a tradition. We talked about good providers and proving your worth. And then on to laws and ceremonies. There was birthing, like, you know, they have people in the communities that are designated as these are the people that you would include, like if you were going to be having a baby and giving birth at home. From a personal standpoint, I wasn't born in a hospital myself. My father and grandmother actually delivered me at home. So, and I'm the only one in my family that can say that. So there's different rites of passage, walking out ceremonies for babies. Some people have heard about this, other people haven't. There are cleansings, again there's quests, 7 teachings, teaching from the heart, the sweat lodge, sun dance, shake tent, naming, sharing circles in different sites. So in the communities, there's all different variations of these and different levels of acceptance and different levels of practice as well.
I think what we were talking about was cultural continuity. How does culture get passed down from the elders, grandparents, grandmothers, and to the parents, to the grandmothers, to the parents, and to the children? And that comes from cultural continuity, they call that. And so we start from parents. What is the responsibility of children? And I believe we said that children were, their responsibility was to learn and to be loved and to be taught the language, the customs, traditions of their family, and so this was done by this is done by in the home, and I think the most important teachers are the parents. Although kids do go to school, the most important teachers are the first ones that receive them when they come home after being born. So it's important what they learn in the arms of their parents. And I think starting from the womb, they start hearing the language. Right in the womb, they start hearing the language. So when they come into the home, they are received by the parents and by their grandparents and by their family, by their siblings. And so it's important that the kids learn how to
Children also teach you a lot of patience. When you're dealing with children, you actually learn a lot about yourself, and they don't know it, but they are our teachers. Okay, B is for parents. Parents are there to teach, guide, protect, and provide, and love the children. They're there to teach, to pass on knowledge, to be responsible for themselves. You got to be a role model, like not only for your kids, but for the people in your community as well. I really think that. I guess there are different roles for the mothers and fathers, and fathers teach what men would do, teach hunting, trapping, discipline, respect for your family values. And you have to lead by example. You have to show your children how things have to be done. Teach them how to do things safely, to be clean. Teach them survival skills as well. I think that's a very important one. How to survive in the world or even in the wild. Give structure to their day. And breaking the cycle of alcohol and drugs. Teach them how to take care of yourself, your personal hygiene, values in life. teach them the customs of handling of animals. You have to be respectful when you're handling, game. And you teach them to give back, make an offering. And here, this section is about communication skills. As a parent, I believe it's very important to teach communication skills, but I feel like I haven't been able to verbalize myself, as I'm just starting to learn that now. Because they have here to be assertive. You have to be able to assert yourself and not be aggressive. Too many people are they're passive, or they're passive aggressive, or they just get really aggressive when communicating, when really you're just trying to talk things out. And I think that's really important for people to learn. And it says not to be. Don't try to admit when you're wrong. Admit that you make mistakes, because that's the way you grow. Apologize when you're wrong. When you need help, ask for it. There's no shame in needing help. I think we're stronger together, so that's why helping one another is very important.